welcome back to my channel. I just posted a video maybe 2 days ago at this point, because it is, pretend it's Monday in this video, because that's when I plan on posting this video, and it's not Saturday. But I posted a video on mine and Sandy's channel. I'll leave a link below if I remember to link it in my description box. But I did mention in that video that I'm currently researching a cult to do, and there's a lot of information. So yeah, I'm gonna do some conspiracy theories that I heard growing up, that like kind of stuck with me. And there's not, like, before I go in any further, there's no conspiracy theory that like I 100% like believe in, because like that, they're all just conspiracy theories. Like, none of them has been proven. So the first conspiracy theory I want to talk about, because I am obsessed with Titanic. I will watch every documentary. I've even been to like the Titanic Museum in Belfast. Like growing up as a kid, the Titanic was like my special interest. But the theory surrounding the Titanic was it didn't actually sink. So anyone who knows the Titanic or even knows conspiracy theories will have heard this theory. So as we all know, Titanic sunk on April 14th, 1912. It obviously left for her maiden voyage 2 days prior on April 12th. Now the theory goes that it actually wasn't the Titanic that sunk, it was the Olympic, the Titanic's sister ship, because the White Star Line had made 3 sister ships. So the Titanic, which at the time was the newest one, the Olympic, and the Britannic. And now I believe the Olympic was like, either the Olympic and the Britannic was the one that looked the most similar to the Titanic. And the Olympic had already had problems before, like had already kind of crashed when she was out at sea. So like the insurance that was on the Olympic, I believe, it like wasn't paying out because it was a liability. Where the Titanic, it was like everybody knows, was a brand new ship. She was supposed to be unsinkable. And the White Star Line company was like, what if we switch? Because like I said, the Olympic and the Titanic was very similar looking. Like, you would have to be real up and close to the personal to know the difference. Like, I believe the only difference was like, you know, like the little portholes you see at the top of ships. Say like the Titanic had 16 and like the Olympic had like 15, say. And then like the windows, like say on the Titanic, they were evenly spread out, where on the Olympic they were kind of more spread out, like they weren't evenly spread out, if that makes sense. So they did look quite similar, and if you were quickly glancing at say the Olympic, you may have mistaken it for the Titanic. So the theory goes is that they switched the 2 ships, that if they could pretty much claim the insurance policy if it sank, because a lot of like big people, like big important people at that time, mistakenly could not go on the Titanic for whatever reason, and then the Titanic sank. And people say that the lifeboats that were used should have obviously said Titanic, because there were lifeboats belonging to the Titanic, but they apparently said the Olympic, which is like, okay. Now, do I personally believe it? No, because how could they how could they know that they were going to sink or they were going to hit the iceberg? I just think it is an unfortunate event that obviously happened, but I feel like out of all the conspiracy theories that I've heard, that one, I feel like you could maybe get away with it, pulling an insurance fraud in 1912. So the next one is about Miss Marilyn Monroe, who died on August 4th of 1962. Now, I feel like everybody knows who Marilyn Monroe is. She was a beautiful, beautiful lady. And people believe that apparently she was having an affair with the Kennedy brothers at the time. One of them being JFK, who was the president. And the theory goes is that she was killed by the government or the Kennedy brothers because she knew too much. And the reason why people believe this is because she, like, the way she died was kind of very weird. So the first thing was that her bedroom door was locked, right? And you're probably thinking, okay, whatever. But when they eventually got in, because they had to break a window to get into her bedroom, she was face down in her bed, naked, dead. And they did like an autopsy report, and it came back that she took an overdose. But people say that the pills that she took, and especially the amount of pills that she took, she would have needed a glass of water to like drink them down. Now, there was no glasses in Marilyn's room. Now, I know people are like, oh, but what if she just took it with a glass of water and put the glass back in the kitchen and came back up to her room and locked the door? People are saying that that is impossible, because with the amount of pills that she had taken, it would have killed her instantly. And like, I believe they did further testing, and it was said that the pills were shoved up her booty, meaning that someone gave her the pills, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because her bedroom door was locked. And from what I've read, people couldn't get into her room. That's why they broke the window. So it was clearly locked from the inside, from what I gather. So it's like, that's a bit fussy. And also, people believe with the window, it looked like it was broken from the inside, not the outside. Making people believe that the whole thing was staged, because she was killed because she apparently knew too much from being involved with the Kennedy brothers, that they told her too much, and the government was like, she needs to go. And like, I think it's quite interesting. Like, it's like, I mean, I feel like the government, any sort of government, but besides the Irish government, I feel like the Irish government, we're not great over here. We're not doing too good. But I feel like the government would get away with it. If they wanted to kill you and make it look like a suicide, I feel like they could do it, you know? The next one, which is that the moon landing was faked. Now, I don't know about this one. I recently read something on it that I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of maybe believed that more. So as we know, obviously, NASA put man on the moon. I'm trying to get like the actual date of when we put man on the moon. I mean, it definitely was far before I was alive. So they landed on the moon in 1969, right? And we all know that there is footage of man landing on the moon, right? Now, this is where people believe that it was faked, because you could see like the flag like moving, which people are like, well, there's no gravity in space, like how is it like moving? They also believe that they could like see like, you know, stage lights and all that sort of stuff. And then people could also see, like, if you're familiar with stage, like being on stage, like in a show with props and all that, you'll be aware that like props will have numbers or like letters on the bottom of them. So like you know where to put them, and like you'll face the letter / number on the bottom, so like the audience can't see it. Apparently there was a rock that had like a letter or something on it that people are like, did they forget to turn it upside down? So people believe that it was faked. Now, like I said, I recently read this and I'm kind of like, okay, it makes sense, and I maybe believe it, that we did land on the moon. But the footage of landing on the moon that we all know of and we've probably all seen was faked and filmed when they got back to Earth in a studio, because we didn't have the technology at the time. Because bear in mind, this was 1969, to film it actually out there. But we did, in fact, land on the moon. And I feel like I kind of buy it. It makes sense. But let me know. Because I feel like the moon landing theory is one of the biggest debates on whether or not we landed or we didn't land it. And let me know what you think. You know, is there anything that I should maybe know that might change my opinion, because I'm all for like listening. But let me know, do you think we land on the moon and that the footage was filmed at a later time when they came back, or do you think that the footage is actually real from the moon, or we didn't land on the moon at all? Next one is surrounding the late Princess Diana's death, who passed away on August 31st of 1997 in Paris. And I feel like everybody, like I wasn't alive when Princess Diana died, but I feel like everybody and like their granny knows who Princess Diana is. And a lot of people believe that the royal family killed Princess Diana for so many reasons. I feel like, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not into like the royal family or anything like that, but like I know kind of a bit about this just from being chronically online. But apparently, you know, Princess Diana, she had a lot to say about the royal family when her now King Charles got divorced, because obviously there was a massive scandal there, you know, like Camilla, like all of that sort of stuff. It was a massive scandal, but not as big scandal as Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, but whatever you're into. Yeah, but theory goes is that the royals, you know, the British royal family, wanted Princess Diana dead because her partner, was it Rodi Ephrael? I hope I'm pronouncing that. I'm pretty sure I'm not. But they were apparently going to get engaged at, you know, in Paris, and apparently Princess Diana was pregnant, and the royal family did not want a Muslim baby being related to the future king, who would have been Prince Charles. Oh, not Prince Charles, sorry, Prince William. So they had her killed because the like, it was all kind of very weird, like the cameras in like the tunnel that the crash happened magically just stopped working moments before Princess Diana's car like came through like the tunnel, which is like, that's a bit kind of weird. That's kind of weird. And like they also like took their time getting her to like a hospital, because like bear in mind, like even though, you know, obviously she was like divorced, but she was still Princess Diana, you know what I mean? But they took their time and they had stopped multiple times on the way to the hospital. Now, I'm not an expert, right? And I'm not an expert in how, like, you know, France does anything. But here, if you're like rushed to the hospital by the ambulance, they will put the boot down and they will not stop until they get you to the hospital. They like here, your best bet is just to get to the hospital as quickly and safely as possible. And that's just for me. Say for me, instance, like as an example. So I don't know why they didn't do that for someone like Princess Diana. Surely you would have been prioritizing like Princess Diana, like the future mother of the king, no? And like what's really weird is that like they kind of just like they didn't do any tests or anything like that to see if she was pregnant, because a lot of people suspected that she was in fact pregnant. And it's like the whole thing was just weird, like consider. And they also, I think, like stopped right outside the hospital before like they pulled it in. Like they said that you could literally see the hospital from where the ambulance was parked. And it's like, okay. And like they try to blame it on like the driver that was like driving Princess Diana, that apparently like his alcohol levels was so high when they tested him. But you could see on like camera footage, like nearly right before they got into the car, the driver was fine. And he seemed completely sober, and a lot of people who claim to have known Diana personally said that if the driver was as drunk as the reports say, that Diana would have never gotten into the car with him. So people believe that they swapped out the tests with somebody else to kind of be like, oh, he was drunk, like, that's what happened. But I don't know. I mean, I personally believe it. Like, that's like, I know I say that, like, I don't believe any conspiracy theories, but I believe that one. But let me know what you think. So the next one is by Paul McCartney, and I'm kind of like reading this because I have heard of it, but I don't know it confidently. So apparently, people believe that Paul McCartney, you know, from the Beatles, died in 1966. The Paul is dead conspiracies go something like this. So on November 9th, 1966, Paul McCartney got into an argument with the other Beatles, stormed out of the studio, and was promptly decapitated in a car accident. To cover up the whole thing, the band hired a lookalike and a sound-alike to Paul McCartney. After going through all this trouble, the band then took great pains to drop clues in their album covers and lyrics to hint for the public that something was amiss. For example, on the cover of the Abbey Road album, all four of the Beatles are crossing, like a zebra crossing, but only Paul McCartney is barefooted and out of step with the other three. This apparently means something. This apparently symbolizes that Paul McCartney is no longer with us. Despite public denials by the band, fans believe it. I'm actually gonna look up that album. So Abbey Road album. Because I think if it's the one I've seen, album cover. Images. Yes, it is strong. No, how am I gonna figure out which one's Paul McCartney? Well, we'll just see. Because, like, I know what Paul McCartney looks like now, but back when the Beatles were popping off, I mean, first of all, I wasn't alive. And no, I understand, but like I don't actually know. The only one I would have known is John Lennon. Okay, these pictures are not really great, but yeah, you can like how like he's he's barefooted, and that is supposed to mean something. Like, okay. Right, so the last one I'm gonna do is about the assassination of JFK. So I'm kind of gonna briefly read this. So Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested on November 22nd, 1963 for assassinating President John F. Kennedy Jr. the same day in Dallas, Texas. 2 days later, while being transported to a local jail, Oswald was shot and killed by Jack Ruby, a Texas night owner. So, this shocking set of events was ripe for conspiracies from the start. Not only was a handsome, popular president fatally shot in broad daylight, but the accused assassination was killed days later, because people believe that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't actually the one that shot JFK. So in as early as the late 1960s, more than 50% of Americans didn't believe that he did it alone. And as of 2017, it is reported that 61% of Americans believed that the assassination involved a conspiracy of some sort. There are a few main JFK conspiracy theories, one popular one being that the CIA killed him in relation for the failed Bay of Pigs invasion. to overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro. According to a biographer, Philip Seenan, Bobby Kennedy, JFK's brother and the Attorney General, initially thought a group of rogue CIA agents were involved in JFK's death, though he later reconsidered. Another theory is that Oswald wasn't the gunman. People can hardly be faulted for believing this when a House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations found that there were probably a conspiracy involving a second shooter. In 1982, another committee called those findings into question, but the theory had already taken root. A third theory being that the assassination was actually a mob hit meant to punish Bobby Kennedy for cracking down on the mafia. So what do you believe? I mean, I know like it says that like Oswald wasn't the only shooter, and I do agree with that because like I've read into JFK's assassination, and apparently where Oswald was standing, he wouldn't have been able to shoot and get like a perfect hit of JFK, meaning that there would have had to have been a second shooter somewhere else in the crowd. So yeah, that's 5 conspiracy theories, and tell me which one you believe, or tell me any conspiracy theories that you believe in.